So I decided to enter the Newbies Game Jam. This game jam runs for 14 days and has a required theme of minimalism. But there was just one problem. The game jam was made for people with less than 1 year of game dev experience, and currently I have around 361 days of experience. This means that in 4 days I'll no longer be able to enter the jam. So now with only 4 days to complete this project, it was time to get started. The first thing I needed was some assets, so I headed over to Low Spec, downloaded a nice colour palette, then went into Sprite to make the tile set and play a character. The assets look pretty basic, but that's because the jam's theme is minimalism, and definitely not because I lack the ability to make anything that looks good. With the assets made, I went on over to Godot and created a quick test scene using a background and a tile map. Next I created the player character and whipped up some delicious spaghetti code that lets the player move around the scene. The next thing I want to add is the ability for the player to warp to one side of the screen by exiting on the opposite side. The way I'm going to do this is by adding 4 collision zones around the playable scene, one in each direction. If the player enters one of these collision zones, they'll be teleported to the opposite side of the screen. Hopefully this will allow me to design some cool levels later on. The final feature that I wanted to add today is the portal feature. The player will complete the current level and move on to the next one by jumping through the portal. This was pretty easy to add, although I did spend like 2 hours messing around with the particles because this is my first time properly using Godot's particle system. Here's the final outcome of the portal. So now it's day 2 of the jam, and I think I want to spend the time I have today making the bits I need to create the levels. And that's exactly what I was going to do, right after I created a new background. That's much better. I made 3 assets I'll use to create the levels later on. The creation process was kinda boring, so instead I'll just show you the end results. The first thing I made was a spike. The player collides with one of these spikes, they'll die and be respawned back at the start of the level. The second thing I made is a laser. The laser has an active and an inactive state. The player walks into the laser while it's active, they'll die and be respawned at the start of the level. The laser will toggle between the 2 states based on the time values that they are given. Each laser can also have its own unique time values, which is pretty cool and should come in useful when creating the levels. Final thing I made was this cube platform that also has 2 states. If it's active, the player can collide with the cube, and while it's inactive, the player can't. I borrowed the laser and the switching platform idea from Icoso's game Square Goes Boing, so shout out to him. I'll leave a link to it in the description. With all these assets now made, I should be able to start work on the level designs, but that's a job for tomorrow. Today is the 3rd day of working on the game, and if I want any chance of finishing it on time, I'll need to get a whole lot done today. And by a whole lot, I pretty much mean create all the levels and playtest them. So I spent the next 6 to 7 hours making the levels for the game. I ended up making a total of 20 levels that range in difficulty. The first couple of levels are tutorial levels which teach you the basics like movement and the warp tunnels mechanic. The middle levels start to introduce the spikes, lasers and switching platforms, and then the rest of the levels are a mix of all these things put together to actually challenge the player. With the levels done, I had some extra time, so I decided to open up SFXR and create some sound effects. I then added them to the game and it now sounds like this. Alright, so now that the game is in a playable state, it would be good to get some feedback. So I'm going to export it, send it to some friends, and call it a day. This is the last day I'll be working on the game, so I need to get it done today. I've also been thinking that it'd be cool to have some type of music for the game, so... Now on to actually finishing the game. I started by changing some levels and fixing some bugs that my friends gave me feedback about. There's a handful of bugs in the game, but none of them were really that big of a deal. There wasn't a bug that made the game completely unplayable and laggy to the point where it would freeze and eventually crash, forcing the player to restart and lose all their progress. Moving on, I next created a menu and a pause menu. I ended up spending way too much time on this, but I'm happy with the outcome because I usually struggle with designing things like this. With the menus done, I decided to add a system that tracks the player's statistics throughout their playthrough and display them after they've completed the last level. After that I thought I was pretty much done. All I had to do was wait for Iiro to be done with the music and then add it to the game. So I've just under an hour left to complete the game and I'm still waiting for Iiro to send me the music, but I've had an idea to add a collectible to each level that the players can optionally try and collect. Yep, you heard that right. With only 1 hour left, my stupid ass decided to try and add a new feature into the game. So I made the item, which was a gold square, and don't you dare call it a coin, because it's not a coin, it's nothing like a coin, it's completely different to a coin and very unique. I then started placing them around the levels, and halfway through doing this, Iiro sent me the music track. The music track is actually really awesome and it suits the game really well, so shout out to Iiro. I'll leave his link in the description as well. Go listen to the track. I added the track to the game and then went back to adding the coins. I mean gold squares. But that's when I realised the time. So did I ultimately fail to complete the game within the time limit because I decided to add a feature the game didn't need less than an hour before the deadline? Yes. But that's okay, because I've had fun making this game and I've even learned some stuff along the way. Am I going to submit it to the jam despite it now being against the rules of the jam? No, of course not. I'd never do that in fact, because it would be really disrespectful to everyone else who has entered the jam. I wouldn't lie and break the rules of the jam just to enter my own game. Never. In all seriousness, go play the game on my itch page, I'll link it below. Here's my personal best if you want to try and beat it. While you're there, why not check out the other things I have on my page? You might even find something that you like. Alright, that's all I got for you. Like, subscribe and all of that stuff. Thanks for watching, I'll see you next time.